Welcome to the Horse Speak Book Club. I'm Laura Wilsey, and we are embarking on a Horse Speak journey through the trilogy of books that Sharon Wilsey has written. The Horse Speak team is dedicated to giving horses a voice and being their well-deserved advocates. We provide evidence-based knowledge of equine body language that's intrinsic, observable, and repeatable. We offer online courses, a weekly video club where we analyze our members' videos from herd dynamics to riding. We offer in-person clinics, personal consultations. To learn more, visit horsepeakacademy.com. This is a judgment-free zone. Everyone here has a varied horsemanship background, and we ask you to help keep the environment safe so no one feels shamed in any way. Thank you for being here today. Releasing Old News, page 167. Sometimes after the second or third trot sequence, a horse might need to stop and go inward. He may roll, lie down, and sleep, or stand very still and blink his eyes. He may even perform the deepest level of releasing old news, which is to yawn so hugely that his eyes roll backward. If you see that he needs a timeout to process what you've done so far, then either sit down or go to zero or go away and come back later. When you come back, your horse may look totally different. His eyes may seem brighter and softer, his mouth may be more droopy, his shoulders may seem lower than before, giving him the appearance of somehow being a shorter horse. He may want to pick up exactly where you left off and whip through a very fast greeting before promptly offering you the hip drive button. This time, when you ask for a trot, he may actually just trot along nicely inside the pen until you stop asking, go to O posture, and invite him back. If he stops immediately, turns to face you, and strolls right over, tell him out loud how you feel. You both will probably feel good, very good indeed. I recommend having this conversation to a peaceful conclusion 3 or more times before you even consider moving inside the pen with him. When you develop clarity of gesture and mastery of your phases of intensity, your horse will stay present and thoughtful when he is driven. I'm going to circle back to the green box. Calm down, you are safe in practice. Remember, when sending using the hip drive button, you tell the horse you will watch his back literally. You must keep this in mind so you understand his various reactions. You are saying you believe you are responsible enough to protect him as you drive him forward from behind. He may say, yeah, right, or no one else has. Why would you? Or you may say that now, but in a pinch, you will make me do something I don't trust, especially in the case of a horse that does not trust people. Asking him to trot might be the last straw, and he will implode and then explode. If he does explode, do all the calm down, you are safe, or speak sequences until you get his focus back on you and he has re entered the conversation. Make an O, do aw shucks, blow a sentry breath, scan the horizon, maybe even turn your back and or sit down to really give him space to pause and think. Try saying things out loud like, I know you think I'm picking on you, but I really am not. I want to see your beautiful trot because you look so lovely doing it. I want you to feel happy about showing it to me. I want to help you let go of all this confusion, so I'm going to sit here and stay calm so I can prove it to you. Keep yourself at zero, and once he is calm, start over, beckoning with O posture so you can do the greeting ritual through the fence. Watch him closely, reading his face and tail as he sorts through his own inner story about what he thinks is happening. Repeat the conversations you've had with success, grooming, sharing space, fun with feet, until you arrive again at the hip drive button and trot conversation. Okay, just a second. We are going to have Miss Violet read, and I just have to get her on the audio. Okay.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
there we go. Conversations on the inside. Being on the inside of the pen or paddock with your horse can be the most conflicting, confusing, and counterintuitive aspect of talking to horses. Driving a horse forward is very tricky to do without accidentally triggering our own predatory desire to chase things, or conversely, feeling overwhelmed and even intimidated by being in a small enclosure with a loose horse. The horse can be a little or a lot more defensive in this situation because of the overlap of personal space. And we too may be defensive without the obvious safety net of a fence to stay behind or a halter and lead to depend on, as so many of us are accustomed. We've talked about bubbles of personal space and the world of circles and arcs that horses move on and think about all the time. Both are hugely in play when working with your horse at liberty. As you will see, the horse can shift away or toward you, but it will still be in a predictable arc. Paying attention to where your belly button aims your core energy is more important than ever now. Having said all this, conversations at liberty have a wonderful quality because the horse is truly free to express himself. Your previous conversations in hand, on the lunge, and from outside the pen have resulted in mutual trust, respect, unity, and acceptance. You both are more aware of how your X sending messages and your O beckoning messages feel and what each other's levels of intensities look like. You've both learned to stay at zero on the inside and have volume control when it comes to intensity of movement. Every aspect of horse speed comes into play when you enter the round pen or other safe and closed space. As you enter the pen, observe your horse for signs of stress. You now know what his tension looks like, so watch his face carefully and his tail too, as well as how he is holding his body. I find that many horses have had negative experiences in the round pen by the time I am hired to work with them. A horse will tell you if this has been the case by his body language. If he rushes the gate or pushes into your space, he is feeling overwhelmed about something. Keep yourself safe. Go all the way back to leading, matching steps, and lunging to build up to liberty practice in this space that causes him anxiety. I believe that horses remember experiences in maps. They do not generalize experiences until the same thing happens on at least 3 separate occasions. In the wild, if a herd gets attacked by a lion at one waterhole, the herd will avoid that waterhole, but not all waterholes. If a horse has a single bad experience in one round pen, he may want to avoid that pen, but be fine in another. But if he had a hard time in a round pen every day for a month, he may associate all round pens as bad. When the horse becomes too tense when you enter the pen, drop back to the in-hand conversations, see page 78, and progress up to the ones done from outside the fence, see page 160. This will reassure him that you are still just talking to each other. Your goal is complete calm when you are together inside any enclosure with him. Conversation, beckoning and sending from the inside. Without holding any whip or rope, enter the pen and either beckon your horse to you with an O or walk up to him and offer a formal greeting to remind him you are there for a conversation. If he wants to avoid your knuckles, greet him with some breaths, then reach to softly touch his nose with your knuckles at least twice. This tells him that you are stepping in as his mother right now, and she wants to talk. Your horse should relax because you are being a little assertive, but staying within the protocol. If you get 3 knuckle touches, scratch his withers, and be mindful to keep observing his gestures as well as, sorry, if you get 3 knuckle touches, scratch his withers, and be mindful to keep observing his gestures as well as breathing. When you have an overeager horse, use the go away face button to define your own space. By now, you should know his favorite calm down activity, so offer that.
Thank you. Danuta?
Number 2, review the in-hand conversations, now at liberty and if he's willing, linked together in a sequence. Start with approach and retreat. Step towards your horse and watch for a lift in his head, a blink or any flinch. Stop and pause, breathe and do all shucks, which is your retreat. If he has moved off to a different part of the pen, it will be easier to see when you've reached the edge of his bubble of personal space. Watch ears, eyes and tail. Reward him every time he answers you. 3. Now come back and go away. Now the come back and go away conversation. Imagine the direction your horse would move on an arc from the position of his head. Place yourself in front of him, on his arc, a similar distance from where you determine the edge of his bubble to be. Make an exaggerated O along with the no shucks, and even call his name softly. If he even so much as leans towards you, praise his try. 4. Now use a shooing motion, wriggling your fingers towards his hip drive button, go away face button, or shoulder button, with just enough pressure to get some reaction. Again, if you get a lean or a flinch, he has heard you. The horse doesn't literally have to come to you or move away for this conversation to be a success. Repeat approach and retreat, as well as the come back and go away 3 times, depending on which one you both have more confidence in, and see how or if your horse answers differently each time. Props in practice. When a horse is nervous or stoic, when I enter the round pen or paddock, I might put 3 small piles of hay on the ground and then move the horse with the smallest of sending messages from one pile of hay to another. I follow the sending message with a step back off the hay and an O posture to beckon him back to the pile I sent him from. I may also offer to hand feed him a few pieces to calm him. Horses do this with each other. You can also begin conversations with the hip drive button by using hay as a prop, slowly moving the horse from one pile to the next, as long as he remains calm. Only attempt this if you have had success with hay games, as I like to call them, from outside of the pen first, to be on the safe side. Predictable directions. The following conversations with you inside the pen will further inform you about your horse's arcs and curves and circles. You will begin to see a predictable direction for his movements. Conversation parallel tracks. 1. Make sure there is a space on the opposite side of your horse and imagine 2 arcs parallel, like 2 rails on the railroad track. One that he is on and one just at the other side of him. Set your intention and ask your horse to yield just his head at first by indicating a go-away face. Next, ask for 1 step with the front feet off his arc to the parallel one using the hip drive button. The message is for him to move his head and take his feet with him. When he leans or steps at all, reassure him you do not want him to leave by immediately doing the drop it to stop it. 3. Now, without beckoning him back to you, ask him to step over with his hind end to the parallel track. Use dancer's arms to support his positioning. Wriggle your fingers or touch lightly in the hollow of the rump, just above the stifle at the yield over button. This button is below the hip drive button, as we learned on page 134. You might need to press your fingers into this spot until he moves one step over. He may turn the canoe and face you, or he might think you want him to move off and so slowly walk away. As with everything else, you ask for something, you got something, so quit asking and say thank you. You can iron out the details later. Your goal, however, is to place him on the parallel arc. These dances of personal space and arcs and circles may seem confusing at first, but once you feel it for the first time, you'll be able to ask your horse to move to the parallel track with more clarity. Remember to have a playful, how curious attitude and not be attached to the outcome.
Thank you. Heidi?
Yes. Target practice. You should be able to use dancer's arms in your target hand, matching steps, fun with feet, and follow me button to initiate any number of games with your horse that will make it hard not to smile. Since you made the effort to acquaint your horse with the whip and the lunging lessons, this is also the time you can begin to carry it in your liberty exercises. As in the previous conversations, it can serve as a useful extension of your pointer finger as you work to talk to your horse's buttons. Conversation, moving on target. 1. Standing parallel to your horse's shoulder in dancer's arms with your knuckles held near his muzzle as a target hand, ask him to walk on. 2. Reach out one of your feet in a large step forward as you point your horse's girth button to urge him to join you in matching steps. Include verbal cues such as kissing noise or saying walk, drop it to stop it, and reward often. 3. Then turn your torso slightly as you are moving together. Remember to hold your leading hand out in front as you target for the horse to follow. Use the angle of your belly button and core energy to create an arc or negotiate a change of direction. 4. Another way to engage your horse in the targeting conversation is to press your leading palm against the upper neck about 4 inches behind the horse's ear and on the follow me button. Then place your hand out in front of him as the target. This is what his mom did to tell him, come along now. Not all horses are receptive to this, though. Some will follow you right away. 5. Entice your horse to check in with your target hand after any stop. 6. As you evolve your target hand, you can easily switch to walking normally at your horse's side as though you have an imaginary lead rope and are reviewing leading and matching steps from earlier conversations. You can use the mid-neck button as needed and even add obstacles like we did in step 5 on page 90. 7. From playing with your target hand, matching steps, and dancer's arms, you can step farther away from the horse and more into the center of the pen. Asking a horse to move out of the way from you can be interpreted by the horse as displeasure. You may have to send your horse out and away from you and beckon him back several times to ensure he understands that you are still having a conversation. It is now just long distance. When your horse is clearly confused about leaving you, aim the whip towards his go away face button and then the shoulder button. Since you have already built trust and respect with these buttons, he should stay calm when you ask.
Perfect.
That's it?
Yes, please. Thank
Okay.
you. Emily?
Hi. Okay. This level of liberty conversation in the round pen can be a little tricky because your angle of movement, that is where your eyes and belly button aim, might actually tell your horse to stop, change direction, slow down, or speed up. If you or your core energy accidentally gets ahead of the horse's girth line, for example, you will slow your horse, change his direction, or even stop him. It can be helpful to occasionally hold the whip up to your belly button so you can see where it is aiming. This is a very good check when you repeatedly get a troubling response or odd answer from your horse, even though you are sure you're asking the right question. If you have trouble achieving connection with your horse at a distance, go back to his side and do tandem matching steps, gradually moving away from him as far as you can while keeping the connection you've reestablished. Exaggerate your steps and drop it to stop it, often to offer a reward. If your horse comes to you, simply use his buttons to gently send him back to his own circle and repeat the conversation of starts and stops at least 3 times. Now he will begin to believe there won't be any chasing, even as you move to apply pressure to his girth and hip drive buttons. Picking up speed. When you get to the point where your horse will walk on his own arc away from you for a full half or complete circle while responding to your gestures and calmly stopping, you can open the conversation up to trotting. This requires the same actions as you did trot work from the outside of the pen. See page 166. Conversation, trotting on the inside. Hold your dancer's arms extended outward for the trot. Your target hand in front must tell him forward and not to come across in front of your space. For clarity, I recommend pointing the finger of your target hand. Essentially, this hand shows direction while the other hand controls the whip, speed control, and distance between you. Figure 11.7a. Number 2, low step jogging in place might be the best trot cue for your horse. Make sure you are either moving parallel to his front legs or facing him on the circle. Your belly button should line up with his girth button. When you drop behind his girth button, you change the game of going faster to one of chasing. 3, some horses are content to have you apply pressure at the girth button as a cue to pick up speed. If needed, point the whip and your eyes towards the hip drive button to ask for an upward transition. 4, all you need is a couple steps of trot at first and then drop it to stop it and praise your horse. 5, when your horse easily picks up a relaxed trot and stops on cue, you can ask him to change direction. Step across to the other side of the pen while the horse is out on his circle. Open into an X and block the horse's circle. Your core energy will cause him to turn around and arc the other way. 6, when you get 3 changes of direction, ask him to turn to face you. You can do this 2 ways. Using your target hand to turn the canoe, figures 11.8a through D, or going to the middle of the pen and making a big O, perhaps even dropping the whip, figures 11.9a through C. Look down or look at the hip drive button, asking him to move over to the side. Your horse will turn the canoe and look at you, which should bring him to a full stop. 7, if your horse is too excited or too intense after trotting to approach you, try pointing the whip at his chest, in front of his body, and holding your other hand up the way a policeman does to stop traffic. You can do this even if you are on the side of the horse. Drop the intensity in the pen by raising one hand up high, blowing out a big breath, then dropping the same hand low. Drop the whip if necessary. You are signaling that he should lower his intensity and his head. Note that if you ever feel your horse gets overexcited and you cannot keep your inner zero, you must safely leave the pen and regroup. In a short time, your trot circles will feel like magic, and your horse will enjoy showing you his beautiful motion, perhaps even showing off by arching his neck and looking really proud, inviting you to call out to him that he is definitely the most stunning horse in the world.
Beautiful.
11:10.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, excellent. So, y'all, we are going to start our discussion portion. So, if you would like to raise your virtual hand to get on the audio, please do so. And then also, you're more than welcome to be on the chat as well. So, let's see, I had some moments of underlining. Let's see, what did I want to say to y'all? Yes, the page on 173, I did like the part that Sharon brought in about knowing where your belly button is. This is so important when we are doing whether liberty work or lunging work, because our belly button is basically a stop sign. And it can be a go sign also, but depending on the angle in which we have our feet, we can be accidentally cutting off forward movement, or we're drawing them into us. So we are practicing with a crop or something sticking out of your belly button, and just to play around with to see, where am I actually going? So wherever our belly button is pointing is the direction in which we're going, even if our feet are pointing the other direction. So that is something interesting to mess around with, especially if you're having a hard time with your horse stopping. Because yes, it can be just that angle. If we have our belly button pointing at the chest, then that is an accidental whoa message. So we want to make sure that our belly button is in alignment with the girth, and maybe even a little bit of the jump up, but nothing ahead of the shoulder, because that's when we can accidentally cut off forward movement. Yes. With 172, we just did the your horse's first teacher, which is their mom webinar. And so therefore we did see a lot of follow me button being used. And depending on your horse's history, this could be a very sensitive button where we want to ask, can I actually even touch your follow me button? Some horses are like, nope, nope, nope. I can't follow you for whatever which reason. So it's a nice button to have some enrichment with. Just a second. And then page 171, the power of the one thing. We talk about this so much because it says, as with everything else, you ask for something, you got something, so quit asking and say thank you. And we want to make sure that we are having an ask and then wait for the response. We tend to do too much talking and not enough listening. So it's just really important to do one ask, wait for a response, wait 20 seconds. Okay, so that's important, depending, because there's so many variables in which a horse may need that time to move. And then, one of the things is to have fun. And so it says, you should be able to use dancer's arms, your target hand, matching steps, fun with feet, and the following button to initiate any number of games with your horse that will make it hard not to smile. All right. So that is good. We want to, we're in a learning curve. So then there is this part of our brain that we're learning. So then we could be a little bit stressy and, things of that nature. So it's just important to make sure that we're trying to have fun. And then also the piece here where Sharon says, I believe that horses remember experiences in maps. They do not generalize experiences until the same thing happens at least three separate occasions in the same environment. All right. So it is important, especially because there is a bell curve of personalities for horses as well as people. So wherever your horse is on that bell curve, whether they're hesitant or extremely outgoing, it's like hesitant to anger, hesitant to outgoing to stress. It's important to know who you're talking to, as well as, like for example, Luna. Luna struggles generalizing environments. Rocky, on the other hand, he's just because he's the mentor, he's the teacher, he's the dad, so he has the ability from one environment to another environment. He's not environmentally challenged. So other horses are. So therefore, we have to not get in task tunnel vision and be with the horse that's in front of us. Right. And there was one more thing. Um, Always take pauses. I think that's just really at the beginning of the chapter. When in doubt, take a pause. And if you are inside of the fence, go to the middle and have a safety object like a mounting block to sit on or a 55-gallon plastic drum to lean on. Do not sit on the inside of the fence within the first 3 feet. That's the buffer zone. Then you're sitting down on, you're supposed to be a protector if you're in that region, the zone 3 feet, the buffer zone. So don't sit there because then you're sitting on the job, and depending on the bell curve of your horse, they will not like this at all. So that's very important. So even on the outside of the fence, you should maybe sit 3 feet away from the edge of the fence too, because then on the other side is also the buffer zone. So we don't want to be sitting on the job when we're in the protective zone. So that's all I have to say about that. And so Violet, I see your hand up. So what you got today?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say that you have gotten so good at giving feedback on videos, at least on my videos. I just like everything you said was so clear and direct, and I had like basically three things I had to deal with. I didn't get overwhelmed by a lot of details.
Yeah.
I was really impressed. It was so helpful.
Thank you.
And also it helped that you recommended that I look again at Tina's video because I picked up some of her gestures with the reins. That was really helpful.
Cool.
But what I wanted to say was, this thing that we just read, it's like way over my head at this point with Rico, but the beginning about, calming, I just wanted to tell a couple things that happened, how I used horse speak at the beginning of the session yesterday that I think totally changed how the session went. Because, usually I go in the afternoon when I'm going to ride Rico or do groundwork or anything, because by then he's kind of bored and he's like, oh, look, here's Violet. What does she want to do? But this happened at like 11 in the morning. And he's like, can't you see I'm busy grazing? I don't want anything to do with you. So after a while, I stopped chasing him around with the halter.
He's like, you're early. We have a schedule, Violet.
Well, it was the only time my friend could come to help out. So I sat down on the mounting bucket for a while. And when he turned to face me and took a couple steps towards me and then went back to grazing, I got up and then I went over like 2 feet away from him and I started mirroring his steps while he was grazing, which I do once in a while when it's clear he doesn't want to hang out with me. But I want some kind of interaction. So, he'd move his front foot and I'd move my foot. He'd shift his weight and I'd shift my weight. And I did that for maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And then I threw the lead rope over his neck and he was fine. He was like, he let me put the halter on. But he was still, and then we did a little groundwork over the poles. He likes the poles. But I could tell he was still a little ambivalent, and he pawed the ground at one point. So I thought, okay, we need to do something else. So usually when I'm working with him, the first thing I do is I lead him around the perimeter, to with like me in between him and the fence to tap the fence and scan the horizon. Just say, okay, I'm watching out for you. So, and he likes that. He always goes along with me. So, and I forgot to do that because of all the stuff with the halter. So after the ground pulse, I went and did that. We walked all the way around and he got really in sync with me. And after that, he was fine. I could tell. And it wasn't even that conscious, like I was looking at him and say, oh, his ears are this or that. I could just feel that he
Mm.
was really with me. And then I could tack him up and he didn't mind. He usually likes that. And, he let me get on. It's like everything went so much more smoothly than it could have gone, thanks to Horse Speak and all these things that I have learned from you and Sharon. And it's just, I'm so grateful.
Beautiful. You are so welcome. You're doing it. You're doing the work. You're taking the advice in, and practicing. And with Rico, it just now sounds like clarity, clarity, clarity. You made a pattern. He's like, it's not afternoon yet, so you're early. But then you went and you showed interest in what he was interested in, which he's eating. He's having some grass. So that's really cool to, have that experience to, okay, I'll join you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then he was like, oh, okay, cool. But then it's like, and the pattern has been you walk the edge, and he's like, we didn't do the edge, woman.
Exactly.
Yeah, and some of these horses who are like clarity horses and that you have done the pattern, they're like, no, we
Well,
can't skip. We can't skip. And it is for safety, right? Like that's the reason why we walk the edge is to be like, this environment's safe. There's no bees nests that formed overnight or anything weird, you know? And so then, yeah, he's just like holding you to a standard now.
yeah, and one time I walked him around the edge and then I got to a point where it was really muddy in front of the gate. I said, okay, we're gonna skip this part. And we're pretty much done. We've only got
Yeah.
half the fence left. We'll just go over to the barrel. He was like, no.
Nope.
He wouldn't move until I brought him over to the rest of the fence and did the last
Uh-huh.
half fence. He's like, no way.
Well, this is good information. Like now you know like another layer of who you're talking to. And that's what I'm saying with the bell curve. When we are noticing these little things that become, it's all pattern recognition. And so if you are ADHD like myself, you can also you love patterns. And so these horses who are yeah, they just have this way like we're not done yet. It's like their OCD kicks in and they're like, nope, nope, nope. We didn't finish the fence. And it's like, it's like even when you're reading, it's so important to, if you don't know the a vocabulary word, you've like, I've never read that word before and don't know what it means, your brain is still back on that word,
Yeah.
and so similarly for the horses, I mean, that's just a perfect example of Rico's like, Violet, we didn't finish our job yet. So now
Yeah.
you know he has a standard, then you shall stick to said standard.
Yep. No, I always go all the way around.
Hey, might as well do it so you have success and not get frustrated.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Well, this is epic. I'm so happy to hear that you were able to follow along with the video feedback and practice stuff that I had said. And, it's so great that you could just hear those things, you could witness what you were doing, and then boom, just go right out there and try out the stuff. I love that. I'm so excited for you both because you've put in a lot of time and energy into having him be interested in a human and got through a lot of stressor stuff with him. We worked a little bit of physical stuff with him. So now he's like, all right, I'm ready to do this with you.
Well, I mean, I think he's really interested in writing. Like it
Yeah.
stimulates his brain. He's like, well, I mean, he gets really resistant sometimes because I haven't, when I haven't figured out how to help him, he's
Right.
like, wait a minute. I mean, he's ambivalent, but I think he's really interested in it.
Well, because
'Cause,
you're trying to figure it out.
yeah.
Like you're not being like, Rico, what the heck, man? Like, I'm doing the thing. Like, why are you not moving? You're like, oh, okay. Like you're pausing and having some reflection. Is it you? Are you doing something? Or is it him? Is he not understanding what's going on? So it's like when we force a horse, that's where we're losing the connection.
Yeah.
Because number one is safety, two is connection. How are we connecting? Are we being a dictator and be like, I want to ride you, let's go? Or be like, okay, what is it that we need to practice? And again, like with what I saw in your video, there was a little bit of things that you were out of balance with, and he already has some balance issues. And so he's like, I can't balance you up there if you're off balance. And so then that's the horse is trying to goes back to safety. The answer is stop and make sure you don't fall off.
Yeah.
Like the horses don't want to drop us. That's really the thing. And if we have a horse who bucks, by golly, what is physically going on? Typically, because it's like, because that is such a big response. It's like, okay, let's check them out. What's going on with their back? Why are they, getting so defensive that they have to go to that extreme to say, get off of me? Because most of the time it's pain. So when we can rule out the physical, we can address some emotional stuff and then be like, okay, here we are. We're present, ready to go. Let's do it. Then you can work on the little fine-tuned details. So that's where you're at. You're getting through the fine tuning. So this is a great journey. I'm so excited to be with it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. We'll talk to you soon, darling.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Danuta, I see your hand is up. I'm just going to see. I like the reminder on page 171, number 3, to remember to have a playful, how curious attitude and not be attached to the outcome. Yes, thank you for that, PJ. That's perfect. I need to write that on both of my hands to remind me, right? Hey, it is a thing, a human condition, right? Task tunnel vision. I'm doing the thing, and that's where it becomes like, how can we remember that we're in a conversation with another species and just slow down and listen? I mean, it sounds simple, but it can be complicated because we're doing a thing. We want to, we have goals, we have things we would like to do. But the more we can just slow down, I mean, it's just one of the big responses that we get when we work in person with people at a clinic is just, wow, I just need to slow down. We hear it all the time. It's like, yeah, we just need to slow down. All right. When we are learning a new thing, we can get judgmental on ourselves. Yes. Am I doing this right? Remember to say how curious with ourselves too. Thank you for that. Building curiosity in ourselves and our horse is more important in the moment than getting a maneuver to happen. Yeah. The power is in the journey. The power is in the pause. It's this really, really important. Safety resides in the predictability and clarity. Yes, thank you so much, PJ, for bringing that in. Oh, Violet, I love listening to your experiences and how beautifully Rico is conversing with you. Your relationship with him is obviously more deeply connected as well. Your voice is full of happiness. I'm thrilled for you and Rico. So, just so you know, for anyone who doesn't know, Violet is part of our video club. So therefore, that's how we are looking at her video, as well as you can do one-on-one consultations. If you join our online programs, the EMS, or which is our year-long program, or the BYF program, club membership is included. So this is a great way. If you want to join the video club, it's $30 a month. So it's a great, great resource. We've covered so many topics and we've been doing it for 5 years. So we have basically every single one has been recorded. I think maybe 2 had some major malfunctions that we weren't able to actually put up. But 5 years, you can basically almost spend a year watching the videos every day. Patterns equal being able to predict. Yes. Getting another horse at the end of the month. Heidi, you are amazing. For the same owner as I got Zeus from, he's a 2-year-old and only halter broke. I've never had one that young. Any tips? Wow, that is a whole webinar in itself. We are going to be doing restarting your this it's really I can't get into too much of that because it is so involved. There's so many details. But you know, the big thing you could do actually is do your horse's first teacher webinar. That would be give you some of the foundational things to look for on what mama is teaching baby. And everything is slow. Everything is really slow with a youngster. So yeah, it's and you don't even know how they were halter broke because people do stuff really fast. So we want to just take our time and look at all the buttons and kind of a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about even with our older horses. You can make sure personal space. I guess the one big thing, because I have like 500 things going at the same time, the one big thing is bubble a personal space. My lane, your lane. So make sure that you are always having both your hands ready to check in and have the cheek space. Because usually the youngsters can have, bubble personal space challenges. So Danuta, you're up, sister. We get you talking. There you go.
Yeah. Hi. Um, I was just wondering with the lunging thing,
Yeah.
our very first horse, way back when, she was, I swear she was a Brumby stock horse. And she, when we put her on a lunge, I don't know if she had ever learned to lunge. And we were like, she was our first horse, so we didn't really know what we were doing either. But we'd put her on a lunge. And she would always, when we stopped, she would always come back into us. You know how horses like on a lunge it's like proper dressage schooling things are
Yeah.
supposed to stay out on the circle, even when they stop. But she would always wander in. And I mean, I thought that was quite sweet in a way. Um, but people would tell me that she should have stopped. So why do they come in?
Well, I mean, so from what I know of natural horsemanship, they do want the horse to come in when they've done lunging. So the horse is wanting to say, check in, really, is the bottom line.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
if you do, like if you're in O posture when you stop, then that is also a welcoming in.
mm. Another thing, this horse, she was amazing. She was sway backed, and it would hurt her to be ridden
Mhm.
for more than. So first day she was fine. Then second day she was a bit jumpy. To
Yeah,
third day she was like, no, I don't like this. And fourth day you didn't bother getting on her. But
right.
we knew nothing about kissing spine back then. Didn't even know it existed. That's
Mm.
how ignorant we were. Anyway, so but when we did ride her sometimes, and I'd have a little canter on her, and I was terrified because she didn't have brakes. So we worked out this emergency stop. So I'd sort of grab hold of her mane and say, "Woo, Speck." Her name was Speck. She was a flea bitten grey, and she would stop, and then she would sigh and turn her head and look at me, and seriously. She was so funny.
Oh my gosh,
But she
that
was
is
like
funny.
really, really smart mare. She was absolutely lovely. Yeah, she died when she was in her 30s. We had her for about
Wow.
15 odd years. So yeah, she was lovely. She was great.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah.
I think there's all these, there's all these rules that the horse should stay out on the circle. It's like, well, why? Because like if we go from a perspective of the horse on the outside is being the protector of this situation, and you're the one in the middle driving them forward, then it is reasonable, especially who are we talking to on the bell curve of personality, and role in the herd. that they do want to check in because you are supposedly the leader in the middle, you
Mm.
know? And so then, yes, is it a training thing? Was it a body language thing? Did you take a step, like, the nuances of how precise that they are reading our body language? I can imagine perhaps you took a step backward in an O
Oh,
posture, so
she,
therefore
she,
she'd
yeah,
come in.
she would have known everything. She was
Yeah.
very, very savvy. I wish I'd known horse speak back then. That would
Oh,
have been
of
awesome.
course. Yeah.
Oh, we've had such conversations. It'll be
Yeah.
wonderful.
And you
But
could
yeah,
have perhaps given her a little extra enrichment on her back, because when
yeah,
they get sway back, then it's just like everything is there. The underbelly is just dropped. There's no good muscling,
mm,
so they're not able to hold themselves up. So their back like just starts hunching. Like when we have a hunchback, right? Like there's people that I've seen people and it's like, oh my gosh, your poor back. They're literally like hunched over. They can't even stand up straight. So similarly, that's like for a horse who's sway back, it's like they've lost all their muscling and there's probably, yeah, pain, because their back is going in. So it's great that we can actually now give them enrichment that can help them with the strength of their spine, and the more
mm,
awareness that we have of how to stitch the buttons together, but sit through the jump up to where you put your tailbone on their back, like that line, they need to be able to lift up through that part of their body to lift like us. We need to have somewhat of muscling in our obliques, which is the side muscles of our belly, so that we can have good self-carriage. Because if we're not, our hips aren't strong and our belly isn't strong, then we are going to also carry ourselves through our neck and shoulders. And then we're going to
mm,
have neck pain. We're going to have shoulder pain because everything is forward and dropped. And then we're just like legs that are dragging behind us. We're so built the same way, even though we're vertical, so it's the more that we can see where the energy is stops flowing. Like when I saw with Rico, for example, the lumbar spine part of his spine, there's not a lot of energy going up through there. It basically stopped where Violet is sitting on him. So then I
mhm.
had given her some advice, just like I said, the sit through the to where she's sitting on him, like really envision him getting strength there, doing some therapy backups, doing some barrel rolls, things of that nature to help strengthen his ability to carry. He has a weak stifle. So it's like when we are able to pay attention to all these little details that are going on. I have a stiff right hip. It is just the thing. I'm going to physical therapy for it. And it's like the hip doesn't want to talk, so it's just when we can just see horses as a person who has some physical limitations or maybe some emotional limitations, then we can open the door and have like such great conversations to help them understand themselves better, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
thank you for and of course it's a flea bitten mare. Those gray horses, they're very, very special and very mystical.
Oh, she was very, very special.
Mm, that's awesome. Great. Well, I think I'm talking to you later tonight, right?
Yes,
Or first
yes,
thing in the morning for you.
yeah. Very
Awesome.
excited about that.
All right, darling. Well, thank you so much for sharing today and for reading. I appreciate you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you soon. Okay. Let's see. Where am I at with the chat? And we're basically done here, y'all. So let's see. Some horses are taught to turn in when they stop. Go on YouTube and you'll see. Yeah, there's both approaches. Yeah, what are the rules of the thing that you're looking at, right? So my very old horse also comes in, eyes pricked forward, as if he's asking, ears pricked forward. Yeah, asking a question. How did we do? Did we do the thing? It's like it's a great time to connect, pause. I would not disencourage. I would always encourage the horse coming in to check in because when in doubt, check in. That's one of our philosophies. Willie always comes in and just stands there to look at me. So I just work on space with him and have him stand looking at me at arm's distance and work on relax since that's what he needs most. Yeah. And that makes sense for Mr. Willie Man because he is a little dysregulated that we saw in those videos recently. So yeah, he needs the, especially if we're asking to do a little bit of trot. And if we have a horse who's a little bit high energy already, we want to make sure we have our zero and then ask for energy and then back to zero and energy and zero. So yeah, this was a great meeting. Thank you for sharing space with us today. We want you to have the gift that horses gave to Sharon, which is the exact and specific nuances of how our body language can communicate clearly with horses. And all we need to do is take time to learn how. If you would like to learn more about all of our in-person and online offerings, please go to our website, horsespeakacademy.com. May you enjoy the journey of learning horsepeak and have fun, which is the most important thing while doing so. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Be well. I love you very much, and we'll see you next week.